What's up, everybody? It's Bongloads and Bullshit. Evan here with a new second man. Somebody you probably know, one Uncle Dig of the Backseat Chronicles. Say hello, Uncle Dig.
Hey everyone, how you doing?
Dig, I guess they're not going to respond now that
I was
think
gonna
of that,
wait for a second and just see what happened, but yeah, fair enough.
just hanging in the air. And I'm just going to I'm going to kick the show off something in the beginning here. There's something new about the show you might have noticed. Of course, Dig's been on here before, but the other two guys are missing. And if nothing else, I believe and take accountability for my actions. Like I'm almost a man. A couple more years, I'll be a man. Like when I do wrong, I believe in saying when I did wrong and so on. So I'm just going to come right out with it, put it on the air. If the dudes are mad, Blake and Cade, and we'll just put it out there for them. So as you all know, the show had really taken off of late, and there was a movie option being discussed, and we got as far as the script being written. And things were going well. We had a great script full of a lot of really good things. And unfortunately, there was a disagreement about who was going to be playing who in a certain vital sex scene. And because of that, the show has dissolved, and not dissolved. It is restructured with Blake and Cade very sadly leaving the show. And to note, they're probably pretty pissed at me right now, bit aside, but they're welcome to come back on, whatever. It's up to them. And now that the Smoking Okies / Bongloads and Bullshit movie is no more, we're going to be doing something a little different. And I'm not going to go too far into this because the focus is not about me. It's not about Uncle Dig. It is about cannabis. It's about weed. I think like that's kind of been the case since the show started. And maybe it got a little bit away from that with the shift to season 2 and the shift to Bongloads and Bullshit, which whatever your opinion on that, like, I don't feel like my life's interesting enough that I need to give you all a bunch of that each week, but I can definitely learn some shit about weed. I can talk to you about weed. If my life comes up in a way that's funny or entertaining, then we'll get into that. And the other big change, and then we'll actually get into the talk, is structuring of the shows because of this. The Shit List, another project you might have been listening to, which is like a dumb listicle article, only it's a video. Think of it like a really stupid, like Michael Moore type movie they make you watch in grade school.
No. It is high quality, short form, informational content. Nom 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 nom. Delicious
that's pretty
content.
good, Dig. Thank you, Dig. Thank you. That's thank you for the nice word. That's the way to put it. And sometimes we're gonna do like a long one of those. Sometimes we're gonna do a show like this. It's just gonna depend on where the week is. The focus is gonna be more on weed. And I'm gonna shout out to the dudes one more time before we get serious, guys. I'm crazy, but that's what makes me entertaining. So on that note, on to the new Bongloads and Bullshit. Uncle Dig, we always start with what we're smoking. So, buddy, what are you smoking on out there in Oregon?
I have been smoking on a lot of Jaeger today. Jaeger is a indica dominant hybrid. Some people say it tastes a bit like Jägermeister. Jägermeister has repeatedly tried to get people to stop calling it Jaeger. So we never call it Jaeger. We call it Purple Hindu Kush. So I've been smoking on Jaeger all day today. Fuck you. They should be glad they have a weed named after them.
Yes.
Don't sue me, but if you do, don't. So yeah, it's kind of like a heavier indica dominant.
Right.
I would even call it just a straight indica. But it's one of the first like stronger strains of cannabis I took to smoking because it was what was available from the grower I worked with.
Right.
So I've got a pretty good strain tolerance to it, but it still gives me like a really good like body high, which is what I need. And it also does good things for my anxiety. I mostly smoke indica. So people are like, what are you smoking at like 10 a.m.? Like an indica dominant hybrid. I have anxiety. Like that's what I'm smoking.
That's just your typical like daily driver.
Yeah, I'll smoke some sativa dominant hybrids if we're gonna like go on a hike or like mow the yard or like do something a little more strenuous. But if I'm sitting here trying to be creative or whatever, I'm not reaching for that.
That's fair. Now, just I think I kind of got the answer from this just by what you're saying, but I take it you do kind of buy into the indica sativa thing. Is that something you think is like, because I'm questioning that personally.
So I use it as kind of a way to describe an understood order of effects. So when I say an indica, I don't mean a short, squat plant that only produce narcotic effects and is quick to flower. And when I say sativa, I don't necessarily mean a tall, thin-leafed plant that produces smaller, like stringier buds with a more uplifting quality. What I'm generally talking about is like I'm being kind of the crass stoner, like indica in the couch, hybrid in the middle. Like, I'm being very crass about it because I know that I'm sorry. I know that there's science behind it that doesn't matter so much with hybridization, but this is how people talk about the plant. And rather than trying to swim up that river, I would rather fight about calling it cannabis rather than marijuana than try to fight about like what we're going to call a narcotic indica. Oh, it's not an indica. It's actually a hybridized version of two cannabis. And like, does it put you to sleep? Then it's an indica, cowboy. Chill out.
Okay, that's fair. But
I understand that science is questionable. I also understand that it may have been partially put forward as a smokescreen during a cannabis cultivation case. I just can't remember where. Yeah, see, our lure and our history in the cannabis space isn't well trust or explored yet. So I think a lot of people are doing that. That's cool.
That's interesting. I didn't know it. It doesn't surprise me. I think part of my issue with it is like I've got a pretty good tolerance, even though I just eat edibles. So like even when I do get high, like I don't know, the high is sometimes maybe not so intense that I like pay attention to aspects of it like I should. It's always just being high. But yeah, that's just me. So the Jaeger, you said that's not something you grew. That's something you have from a grower.
Yeah. My buddy grows it. You may have heard him on the Bagseat Chronicles. His name's Roland Smokes. He grows up on a hill somewhere near Merlin, Oregon. And then, like most of the other stuff I've been smoking on in my rotation is my home grow. Like every morning I start my day off after I get my morning coffee and kind of get limber a little bit. I start my day off with a joint of something called CBD Dutch Treat.
Right.
It's something I home grow every year outdoors. It's something, and it's like 4% THC, like maybe 10% CBD, kind of a light high to start my day. Kind of like, and it's one of the only sativa leaners I smoke. So if I offer you CBD Dutch Treat, if you're ever here, like
that's what it is.
Yeah. And also like, if you're not like an everyday like heavy toker, like anything I've grown here, like a lot of even the CBD strains I'll get you a little loopy because they're all I don't believe in CBD without THC. I believe you need a little bit. Right. So most of them are like 1-to-1s or like 2-to-1s, like the CBD Dutch Treat. Right. And then I've grown Harley Sue and other stuff like that, right, but it doesn't taste as good.
Yeah.
So I don't grow it again.
I've got a fun one about fucking Harley Sue or Hall Sue or however you say it. Fuck. I thought the name looked cool when I was new to. Oh, okay. So whenever I started smoking weed again, I was traveling from Indiana, where of course it's not legal because that place is under a stranglehold from like the pharmaceutical industry. I was going to Illinois, which is a state where it's really shittily taxed, but it's recreational and you can just get it if you got an ID and you're over 21. Right. And I didn't know shit about percentages. I didn't know shit about researching your flower. I just like, you buy the green shit, you get it. And I could see you already putting the pieces together, Dig. I drove 2.75 hours round trip for CBD flower that didn't do anything but put me in a weird fucking mood. And that was like with no tolerance.
You drove a far ways for hemp to buy hemp to smoke.
To overpay because that shit's like $70 an eighth after tax due in Illinois. It's no joke, or it was at the time.
And fair enough. I know a lot of cannabis growers who'd be like, Harley Sue's not hemp. But I'm like, fair enough. It's low THC cannabis. But we all know that's not what he was looking for. So, and he
no, I was not. Now the next time, and I'm just like rudely fucking, hey, podcast, watch me do my phone. Sorry, wife, gotta respect the wife. Fucking the next time I got Member Berries, and Member Berries was my favorite strain for a minute because I thought that it was like so awesome, but it turns out like Member Berries is okay, but it was just like new weed gets you really high. It had been so long that I hadn't had this new weed, and holy fuck. It's that was only like 2.5 years ago too. So like I've made a long evolution into the fucking crazy but weed educated person you've seen today.
Oh, good. Yeah. I've somehow, like, people are always telling me like, you're gonna get tired of like doing, like being like weed guy all the time. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I dip my toe into this like medically like years ago, and I haven't been like, I'm gonna do something else now. I'm gonna try something else. Like it's never been like it kind of I love growing it. I love smoking it. It's great.
And it seems like it's just you're only maybe a weed guy to the outsiders, at least in my life. Like, and I don't talk about it as much as I used to. It used to be that I'd be like, hey, if you don't know shit about weed, ask me and stuff. And like I've kind of chilled off on that because I don't feel qualified giving people medical advice. People would come to me with like shit about like I got high blood pressure. What should I do with weed? And I'd be like, I don't fucking know. So I backed off on that shit. But like I lost my train of thought. But yeah, with you.
Dude, yeah, well, I've always been kind of a weird guy since I was young. Like, if you come over to my house, I'm gonna offer you whatever drugs I have, and by drugs, I just mean like I'm gonna offer you a beer if I have beer. I'm gonna offer you scotch if I have scotch. If I have a nice wine, I'm gonna offer you wine. If I have weed, I'm gonna offer you weed. I always have weed. I'm always gonna offer you weed. And then if I have something else, I have something else. Most of the time, it's just weed, wine, and bourbon,
wine, women, and song, and weed.
Right.
All of those things. With what you're smoking, I guess. Did I name mine yet?
You talked about some historical strains.
Okay, I should get into mine because it's pretty good and we need to pimp these guys. So I always talk about these guys every show, but I got this from a better bud, and they're good guys. If you're in Lawton and you haven't been there and you listen to this show, man, you're doing yourself a disservice. Just come to a better bud in Lawton, Oklahoma. And on that note, I lost the dram, another show staple, some Oreos, some of the famous Oreos with a Z, the famous fucking variant of cookies that now I'm sure Tyler is groaning.
Okay.
And I packed up a bowl of it a minute ago, and it's pretty good.
Good. Yeah, I like cookie strains. Like I think there's a reason that a lot of home growers don't grow them as much, is because they can be a little larfy and kind of hard to trim. But gosh, dolly darn it, if they aren't just some of the most potent, like, I don't know what you call it. Like, I have really intense low back pain.
Right.
And like when I've been puffing tough and smoking a lot of weed because I've got really intense pain, sometimes there's a few strains that are potent in a way that'll root down in my back pain and kind of give me like a little shiver and let me stretch. Mm-hmm. And one of them is Girl Scout cookies.
Okay. Understandable.
So some of those like hype strains that people that's hype shit. Well, and but whatever, it's like bag seed. I'm like, well, you got to think like certain strains give something to certain people, and you've got to like respect that. Cause I know people who love some strains that like are not hype, and they keep them around and no one else likes them, but they do good things for them, and it's what they like. And you've just got to respect that.
Like, too, I think, I don't know, going into cookies in particular, like, I do agree that being kind of like the Walmart of weed and their whole design thing, like inflicting itself on everything, like whatever, you do get tired of them being like the visual standard bearer of cannabis culture, I guess you would say. And I do understand why people who
say that. I would not say that.
Well, I mean, around here, like that fucking famous blue background with the white wave, that's like synonymous with weed. And I'm guessing, well, I'm not super connected to the average like casual weed user, cannabis user. With as prevalent as that kind of visual thing is and that stupid logo, I'm guessing that that's probably the case. And like,
cool. I'm excited to come out in the Midwest and hear Burner being bumped everywhere. That's exciting.
But like Tyler, because of that, I gotta cut that out. Now it's Tyler. I don't have to cut that out. One of the friends of the show doesn't like him because of that, and they do get a lot of hate. But I also think there's a little bit of a Starbucks effect, and I think that goes both ways. I think, whatever you think about Starbucks, it's all over the place for a reason. And they got to be doing something right. And that's kind of like, if cookies is that big and they're fucking everywhere, like they got to be doing something right. Like
I'm not talking about the brand cookie specifically. I'm talking about the cookie strain, just so you know.
That's what I was kind of thinking, I guess, because you probably wouldn't like the brand.
Man, I don't have a problem with the cookies brand personally. I don't like people charging too much for weed or too much for cannabis seeds.
Right.
And I think they do both of those things. But I don't buy their weed, not because there's not one near me. There's not one near me. No one in rural Southern Oregon is going to go pay $70 for an eighth. Go fuck yourself. I'm sorry. Like, no.
Right.
Like I can literally like go in almost every third backyard in the state and find some dank, sticky, icky. Why the fuck would I pay that much for it? And that's why I want people to like grow and build that community, because it has a way of making you smoke higher tier weed. Because I think some of the best weed in the world is small batch homegrown, man. I'll stick by that if it's done right.
I feel like I could have probably done that with mine. When I get a new grow going, I'm gonna have to go through that. And it's good to have you around to document with the show and stuff, because we did a good job, but we made some mistakes and we were close to attaining that. And it's just nice to do. So yeah, one day we're gonna grow. Now I just hit this fucking, oh my God, I've been these Oreos and got a nice minty taste, and like 2 rips in, I'm doing pretty goddamn good. So that's worth it. That's some good fucking marijuana.
I forgot how to turn on my vape.
Oh shit. Oh, you vaping today. Hitting that. Is it like a dry herb doohickey?
Yeah, this is this company was really nice enough to send me a couple of dry herb vapes. Claudius 9. I've talked about this one on the show. This is the Atomic 9 dry herb vape. I've dropped it twice and it still hasn't broke. So that's pretty cool.
That's what's up. But one thing I appreciate about the dry herb vape is if you like to keep using the cannabis, once you dry herb vaped it, you can then put it on a fucking cookie and make a firecracker and maybe get high.
No thanks, but you could. Yes, technically.
You don't like weed Native American, the weed, and use every little bit of it?
I mean, I do in theory.
You get the judgment in that tone?
I compost my stems, if that's what you mean.
Fair,
like,
no,
I smoke my trim if I don't store it later for making edibles.
Fair.
But no, once I vape it, I don't want to taste that popcorn shit on a cracker. Like, I'm not.
Well, yeah, that's why you gotta match it with like a complimentary taste, such as peanut butter on like a regular cracker.
I'm allergic to peanut butter, so all those hacks are gone to me. So yeah, the hack where you put your mushrooms in peanut butter so you can do a bunch of shroomies and go places. No, none of that for me.
So what do you people eat? Do you just have like oleo with salt in it?
Oh no, I eat butter.
I was just fucking with you. I couldn't imagine not having peanut butter to mix drugs on.
Oh, really? I just wash whatever I have to eat down with Dr. Pepper, and that seems to fix whatever taste.
That was a little bit of a bit, but yeah, the ABV is it provides that full spectrum high, and that's something I'm kind of spoiled by the distillate thing, and I've probably had my tolerance ruined a little bit by the distillate thing. It's now to the point where like that full spectrum buzz to me is like kind of its own different animal within the weed family in very weird and unexpected ways. I'll say, and I just kind of carried the conversation off because the Zenite is really kicking in, that like the full spectrum buzz that you get from like a firecracker or like maybe a gummy that you make at home, if you make it my way or whatever, is just, it's a little more weird than the distillate buzz, which is just like a chill, good time and you're high. And like you want to eat shit, and you fucking I
don't like distillates. And that's first for a few reasons. Like I don't want to make them at home. I'm generally not into anything. I'm really into the DIY aspect of cannabis. Because I have time, but I don't necessarily have a lot of money, but I want to have a lot of cannabis. How do I do that? I grow it at home. Now I have a lot of cannabis. But like when I cook with cannabis, I like recently the last couple of years I've been making these cannabis caramels.
Oh, I've heard of these, and I'm interested in enjoying them.
I'll send you a video. There's this lady out of Canada that does cannabis cooking videos, and she makes candy, and it's one of her videos that I got it from. It's a super intellectually easy process. But you can't stop stirring candy, because if you stop stirring it, it tries to jump out of the pot and kill you.
So intellectually unchallenging, but emotionally trying.
Well, and it gets hard as you're stirring.
Not unlike marrying me.
Well, yeah, but like if I'm sure that if I stop stirring you, like you won't explode and like stick to me while you're burning me.
Oh
like,
no, dude. The lack of stirring is precisely what wants to make me explode. If you want to bring this hilariously fucking accurate analogy right out into the limelight.
If you weren't married, this is where we'd be like Evan's hot, sticky sweet from his head down to his feet.
Totally not going with the sexual euphemism at all with stirring for that. I would say like twisting or yanking or tugging, one of those.
Whatever, you tired old whore, it's stirring. You know it is.
Stirring one's pud with a spoon. These words are getting pretty good.
Cannabis. Yeah, cannabis.
Distillate.
Oh yeah. Okay. So distillate. So I don't like distillate. Like you said, it's kind of like the vape high. It's like clean and it's like a little more uplifting and it's not as like it doesn't stick to your bones as much. But when you have an edible where it's been like plant matter, it's been kind of like melted and like, cooked into butter and you're getting more plant matter in there and more like other terpenes besides THC. It gives you a more dynamic entourage effect. And I think it even has more medicinal value, in my opinion. I don't know if that's true, but I think it does.
I would say personally, like I could probably make you like a food pyramid scale of like medicinal value, starting with like your RSOs and shit. And then on to like, your FICO gummies and stuff like that. And then maybe onto your distillates. And I'm sure I'm missing stops. And then maybe your vapes. And then at the tail end is like straight combustion, like in my opinion.
I think combustion offers more than distillates do. I think that if you really talk about medicinal value, depending on what you're using it for, like I think that smoking a joint is superior than eating some like soulless gummy that someone made with rubbing alcohol and purified THC.
Oh, they didn't make it with rubbing alcohol.
Whatever.
That'll make you blind.
Whatever. Grain alcohol. Fuck distillate is what I'm saying. It tastes gross. It is gross. Like even gummies, you can. Like, I don't know, man. I'm good. How did I make
gets
gummies?
A bad rep.
How did I make gummies? I made gummies with coconut oil that I had infused with what is it?
Lecithin.
Yeah. I did some. I don't remember where I got that recipe. I don't like eating gummies because I would eat so many because it was like weed pills you could eat, and I would like turn on techno and I would eat like 15 of them.
Oh yeah.
And then I would get sick from all eating all the gummy stuff.
Right. That's what you do too. Yeah, that's standard practice. I found with mine, one of the things that at least temporarily stopped me from making it was when I make gummies, like, I'm not sure if I make them too strong or what, but like, and I don't use coconut oil because it doesn't bind as well. I use what is it? Vitamin C powder and some other shit. It's been a while since I made, but when I put them in the freezer, like this green scummy shit starts working its way out of it. So I gotta get that part of the process down. I gotta understand that a little better. Now the homemade gummies I was making were hitting good and I was pretty good on them. But even then, man, like I got ones that were very close to Zyn. I probably had 2 runs that were like on the point of a Zyn, but like, among my favorites here in Oklahoma, it almost feels like a lot of them are adulterated, with the exception of the Nature's Key. I don't think the Nature's Key is anything but high quality distillate. Now it's all full spectrum.
So my best, like a lot of times when I'm doing edibles, I'm doing them before bed to go to sleep.
Okay.
So so everyone knows what the effect I'm looking for. I'm looking for nom nom nom. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for like system shutdown. So like what you may call an overdose is what I'm looking for. Like I want to go to oblivion. Like I don't want to nod off necessarily, but that's an option.
I want to go to Morrowind.
So like for me, the caramel keeps that full spectrum of the butter, or I'll do what I like to call a pot chocolate, and I'll mix like raw,
if you will.
Yeah, I'll mix weed butter in with my like hot chocolate, and it tastes like a little hot chocolate cookie. And then it also puts you right to bed, and it adds 5 pounds to your ass if you're looking to be a little more wiggly.
Well, yeah, I was actually thinking about that for one of my new plans. The shows, the cam thing where I do that for money, and you can have me write things on it and shaming things and whatever. And go to the store with a thong on, just all that shit. And toilet slaves.
Spell it with an I, 3 I's. Anyway, sorry.
I was trying to think of a joke to link the lowercase I to the penis because that's where my mind goes, and that's still the really the fabric of this show is the dick joke. And that said, with the new focus on weed, I guess we used to have topics back in the Smoking Okies days, and I don't know that we necessarily need to go to hard topics and stuff, but we do have a loose topic, and today's loose topic is getting high on a budget. This is topical in numerous ways. Top of all being, of course, my life sucks gigantic flaming cock right now. Pejorative cock, not like mean cock. And like money sucks, even though we all work in this house all the time. And, you know, so I'm always looking for ways to get high for free. And I took some notes here. I'm going to note something up, and then Dig, I will give the floor back to you.
Okay.
Something that really burns me is apparently I was under the impression that maybe in some cases, if you work at like a super liberal workplace that has cool stuff, that you might end up getting insurance for medical marijuana. And I looked a solid 20, 30 minutes. There ain't shit that I can find. And I don't even think there's like a specialty health insurance or something.
No, go buy your weed, you dirty pothead.
Right. And that's what burns me. And that's what brings up this topic of needing to save, is exactly what you said, Dig, because to the outside, you're no different than an alcoholic trying to fend off the shakes. You're conceptually no better. You're conceptually no better than a Xanax addict trying to fend off the shakes, for that matter, a heroin addict trying to fend off withdrawal. But on the other side of the lens, anybody who uses this shit knows that it's not like other medications. It is medication. Like, I can tell you right now, like with all this crazy shit happening in my life right now, which is evident around me, it's evident in my fucking eyes when I look at myself on the screen. Like, if I didn't have cannabis to rely on, and not to impair me, not to get me stumbling high, like not to get me to where I'm fucking, I can't think, literally just to make it to where my head is not screaming at me, hey, everything sucks. Like, it's medication. So for these places to not give insurance and for insurance not to be there yet is fucked up. And it can be expensive because of that. And that's my whole thing and why we had this topic for the first inaugural and new kind of episode.
Yeah. And I think depending on like the area you're in and what's available, right? It's going to depend on, and also like what's illegal, how law enforcement is in your area, all those variables is going to depend on what way is best for you to save money on weed. If you're just trying to get flower and you're trying to get flower cheaply, you need to go in your backyard. And if you've got a tall fence and it's illegal to grow in your state, you don't even have to grow a big giant plant. Go take an autoflower, throw it in a 3-gallon pot.
Right.
And don't even feed it. Just put it in some nice dirt. And you know what? I did that last year and I got a 1/2 ounce off of each autoflower that I just barely did. I tied it to a stick, like some sad tomato. I didn't train it. I didn't top it. I didn't trellis it. I didn't even feed it.
Oh, it's not a trellis. You just tied it up. Never mind.
I tied it to a stick when I stuck a garden stake in it. So you can do this stuff low effort. It's not quite as good. But if you're just looking for like good, like solid mids to smoke,
right,
like you don't have to work very hard to get solid mids out of a home grow situation.
That seems like that would be good edible weed. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh yeah, totally. And that's another way. If you have access to a lot of like, let's say you have access to a lot of like kind of shitty weed, then edibles, right? Then you're going to want to make edibles out of that. And then you can get a lot of like bang for your buck that way. So it kind of depends on your situation. I think making edibles, and if you're home growing, using every part of the plant. Right. Like he was teasing me about not taking grody already been vaped weed that if I'd smoked, I would have thrown out anyway, or ended up in the bottom of my bong and not eating it. So, but like I take my trim and I make it into edibles, or at least store it for use in making medicines and stuff later. And I know a lot of growers throw out their trim. Now my indoor trim, I smoke in joints because I just love it.
That's the trim joint that you smoke out your home grow is going to be better than any pre-roll trim, any trim pre-roll that you get from like the fucking dispensary, no matter how good those trim pre-rolls are.
Yeah. It's night and day. Now, depending on outdoor, it can go either way, depending on how you trimmed, but the indoor trim joints are pretty good, especially if you pick out the twigs.
I'm just looking something up real quick. Sorry.
Oh yeah, no problem. Another thing you can do is I don't know how dispensaries are around there, but a lot of times what'll happen here is like if you buy so many, they can't give you free weed. They can never give you free weed, but they've come up with these point systems, which are backdoor ways to give you like membership discounts.
Right.
So if you're like a heavy consumer like me, first of all, you just need to grow it.
Right.
If you're a working person with like a working person's money and you're trying to smoke more than like an 1/8 a week, And I'm not even kidding, more than an eighth a week. You need to be growing it yourself, or you need to like start dating a dready mama who grows it in her backyard. You need to figure something out, bud, because you cannot be buying the amount of weed you probably need to treat your illness, honestly. So like,
I will not be marrying a dreaded mama for any number of reasons. So growing does sound more appealing in that regard.
You know, and you can do the trifecta, right? You could do the dready mama. You could do the uncle in the bus behind the property taking care of the plants when you're on the vacation. And then you're set. You've got and then if she's already got 2 kids, oh, you got an Oregon triple. I'll tell you what, honey.
Where does a stinky emo girl play in?
Oh, that's a whole nother thing.
Okay, that's fair. That's a whole nother thing. Now I've completely distracted from the topic with my stupid in-joke bullshit. One thing I will note,
miss me some stinky emo girls.
Oh man, I never would. I have no basis to miss, and I wouldn't if I did. A little editorial sideline, another one I'll have to cut out. I don't know if this Zoom actually has a timer on it or not, but we may have to do the thing. If so, I'll just message you the new link on Insta, and we'll do that. And
resend it to my yeah, it'll be easier.
Okay, so I got to remember to cut this part. Okay, cool. So in about 2 minutes, and we'll fade on that. Now, coming back in with that, the first tip after my terrible derail that I had, and something that ties exactly into what you were talking to, Dig, is you can smartly use a combination of edibles and flower to get way more use out of either, like than you would individually, if that makes sense. I rambled it out.
Oh yeah.
And it's about the method, and it's about, you know, dipping into edibles and like kind of trusting them as your backbone of shit. Cause like I can say from personal experience, if I need to make a tin of edibles last, I will eat a third less edible. Like I'll eat maybe 100 milligrams instead of 150. And I will, whenever I feel that edible buzz start kicking in, I'll tap a bowl 2-3 times, and I'm way higher than I would ever be off either one of them. Which ties back to the idea of edibles being their own buzz. Cause I'm no pharmacist, but I shudder to think of any medication that can kind of synergize with itself like that.
Right.
Like none that I can think of, but edibles and smoking are like very different experiences. Now, that said, if you're willing to dance with the plant, you can get to a level of tolerance where maybe every buzz is the same. And that's where weed gets real medicinal in my mind, but that's how far do you want to go?
Well, yeah. And I will say, like, my favorite way to, like, let's say, cause I can't drink anymore. And I used to have a love of getting stumbling drunk, and I'll still get stumbling high from time to time just for fun. That's not necessarily medicinal use. That's just part of who I am, man. I like to get fucked up. Don't judge me, but I can't do that anymore because my liver's all screwed up for me liking to get fucked up. So consequences anyway. So now what I'll do when I want to get screwed up is I'll eat an edible.
Right.
And then here's the trick. I'll wait 15 minutes. I'll eat another edible, and then I'll wait 15 minutes, and I'll eat 2. These are all night edibles. These are all night strength edibles. And then I'll eat 2 edibles at the 45-minute mark, right when the first edible kicks in. And then I'll smoke weed until I can't breathe.
And then
usually after that, I'm slurring my words and drooling. And that's like a party night, like the 4th of July. That's what I do.
See, I know you're not a Sunny fan, and I totally wouldn't want to redirect anybody away from cannabis who's enjoying it. But if you're a fan of Sunny, you know, maybe a quicker method to get to sleep like that is just to eat a can of cat food and drink a warm beer real quick.
Make yourself sick, so sick you're so tired you just go to sleep, right?
Now, I have definitely consumed so many edibles that I'm ill, but I think that just speaks to maybe the quality of the edibles that I was eating at the time. Like,
no, I'm not getting sick. I'm getting very inebriated. None of this point am I nauseous or even really dizzy. I'm just severely high. And when you get too high, one of the things that happens is you start dropping stuff because you're starting to disrupt your nervous system, and it becomes difficult to walk. I'm not suggesting that the listener do this. It's just something that I enjoy doing.
Right.
It's of dubious value, but it is entertaining for me and sometimes other people, mostly me though.
Unlike, again, most other medicines that I can think of, I'm sure there is another example, but I can't think of it. Cannabis is definitely the kind of drug where you can kind of decide your own dose, your own method of administration and stuff. So that, you know, if you're into that, great. But to that end, if you really want to get the most out of it, use that synergistic effect. Just tap in and then start eating edibles, because you should do things exactly like I do, listener, exactly the way I do. Ow. Oh shit.
One
Okay.
of us.
Done grinding that out. One of us.
One of us. Anyway, yeah.
Devils fucking rule. Oh, I go back and forth on this. Yeah, we got enough time to squeeze this in real quick. Another way that you can save money with edibles, if you live in a state where maybe weed's not legal, and I certainly wouldn't want to advise anybody to engage in like interstate smuggling traffic kind of shit at all, because that would be bad. But if you were to, say, source your stuff from one area to carry it over to another, I found that can be a significant savings, with the caveat that that's only if you really enjoy like edibles and carts and shit.
Yeah. And when we come back, I've got something that may also save you money depending on your market and what kind of damage you're willing to do to your lungs.
Lots.
Okay. Well, so for example, like here for a while in Oregon, everyone was like blowing their shitty, like badly grown weed into wax, and you could get really high grade BHO for like $10 a gram, $15 a gram. Like, so it was just really cheap to buy like a gram of like donk your brain out wax and just smoke wax and nothing but wax all the time. And like, so I would see like broke college students, they didn't even smoke weed. They just dab because it was cheaper for them to dab than to actually smoke weed. So if you're in a kind of market that's flooded with like cheap BHO and you don't care about your lungs, because I think that smoking too much concentrates where they use solvents specifically is bad for your lungs. I'm not saying smoking flower is good for you, but I think it's better than just doing dabs all the time. That's just colloquial, just my personal belief.
I don't know enough to speak to that one way or the other, but I enjoy the effects of dabs more, but I don't enjoy them as much as flower, because the way they make me cough feels different, and it's kind of nastier and more vicious in a way. I don't know. The dab cough kills me. A bad dab cough is one of the least pleasant feelings I can think of.
It kind of reminds me of when I quit smoking cigarettes using vape. And one of the reasons I quit vaping is because I would get like a weird, gross cigarette cough, only it was wet.
Ooh, yeah.
And I was like, oh, well, we're not doing this anymore. And then like this is a new thing. Like I get the like dry cigarette cough, which is something I was used to.
Right.
But I was getting like a wet thing, and I wasn't sick. And I was like, well, fuck this.
Okay. All right. That's a good stopping point on that. I'm going to hit the stop on this recording. The sludge from the end of that, like that guy at the end of RoboCop. But on that note, if you are going to dispensaries where they do have those horrible cheap dabs that will kill you, it is worth taking your time to find a place with a good reward program. Now, I don't know, like you'd mentioned the reward programs in your state, Dig. Are they pretty generous out that way?
Depends on the shop and how much weed you buy. If you're like me and you go through periods where like sometimes you run out of all the home grow, or most of it, you start buying and you buy like a fairly substantial amount, you're going to get bigger discounts. But yeah, some of them are fairly generous. I don't know how generous, but like I've definitely saved upwards of like $40 on bills before, like stacking points and stuff.
That's always the best when you go to one that you've got, like you've been to for a minute, and like you get the built up points that you haven't considered. That's gotten me fucking gummies on days where I'm broke. That's gotten me to where I can add like a gummy to my purchase of weed or get a gram or whatever. And it's so nice. But on the other end of that, I've had many experiences with stingy dispos where you finally want to cash in and you assume you're going to have a little bit. And then they come to you and like, you have $2.08.
Oh, yeah.
So keeping that in mind, if you live in a state where they have rewards programs, it is worth seeking those out. Here in Oklahoma, one I know of for sure that's a good one is, or at least was, I just said for sure. One that was for sure good when I used to shop there was Okie Kush Club. I'm not sure if it's still this way, but it used to be those dudes would give you 10 cents back on the dollar, which was fucking mind blowing. Yeah, that's just 10% of your shit back. So maybe check those guys out and plus they have good weed and they have cool shirts. So that's a free ad for you.
I have no free ads for you people.
None. Oh, no, you hit the vape people earlier.
Oh yeah. Fair enough. I did do that. They did give me that, full disclosure. I didn't pay for that.
Oh, fair. I would. Yeah. Luca did that for Bong Loads and BS too. But the problem is that thing was, it was kind of a piece of shit. It was kind of,
so far they haven't, so far this guy hasn't sent me a piece of shit yet. So
Hmm.
I'm gonna keep saying nice things until I don't have anything nice to say, and then I'm just not. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I haven't had to run into anything that I didn't want to like use. Like everything that people have sent me that I've pulled out of my free box has been good stuff. So,
And you know, like Dig, I don't know if Dig, you were creating an implication there, but I'm gonna come right out with it. I don't care what you send me, how shitty it is, as long as you gave it to me, and as long as we have a good relationship, it's great. And I mean, I am unethical. And you know, back in the day, back in the Bongoods and BS days where we had Kate and Blake would be kind of like the ethical counterpoint. That's gone. So like 2 points. Sponsors, hit me up because I'm yellow. I'll sell out on anything. And listeners, you can't trust anything I say now.
give me free shit, and I'll say a nice thing about it if it's good shit. If it's bad shit, I'll probably not say as many good things about it. I'm not as for sale as Evan is.
I actually do. You know, Luca, I would probably talk shit about them anyway, but like there are a lot of personal problems with Luca that come out, but that's cool. We won't get into how they don't pay freelance writers. Or the marketing companies that they hire don't pay freelance writers, because that wouldn't have anything to do with weed.
No. Freelancing for free has nothing to do with weed at all and would never happen.
You shouldn't work for free.
Depends on what you consider work, in my humble opinion.
Sex work.
No, you shouldn't do that for free. You're getting taken advantage of. I'm sorry.
But in a way, isn't like every loving encounter that you don't pay for working for free?
I don't know. I guess it depends on like how much you paid for dinner and the positions she's open to.
Fair. I too view like my every relationship with women in a very transactional way. It helps me, you know, rationalize things I do. I'm kidding.
That
Okay,
was
this
a-
is getting too dark.
Wait, hold on. I don't endorse this. I can't tell if he's joking. We're going off.
Oh, jeez, man.
I'm
Me of all
teasing you. I know I'm joking. No, I know you're joking. He's kidding. No. I mean, there's a place in this world for transactional relationships with women, and that place is in a regulated red light district with rampant STD testing and a regulated system of pensions. But
And
hey,
something
I
to
am a
protect against
dreamer.
human trafficking.
Yes. Well, listen. Once there's a pension, everyone's going to sign up. You're not going to have human trafficking. Let me tell you. See, anyway, let's not get into my utopian views of like what sex work in this country could be if people would stop beating the Bible so much and beat their meat a little bit more. Come on. You're in the Bible Belt. You know what the fuck's up.
I can't think of a fucking clever way to say it, but sex, opinion chats, and bullshit is what I've accidentally created. Sex work, opinion chats, and bullshit. Returning to the ancillary, the bong loads part, the bong loads and bullshit. One thing, Dig, that we've been hinting at over and over, and something that you said overtly, but we didn't say overtly enough, is you can also save money on weed by growing that shit. But to like go along with what Dig said, you can go and spend $1 bajillion on your tent, and you can go and get your nice fucking LED light or whatever kind of light's the best and do all that shit and lie to your landlord and say, no, I need to cut a vent because I'm growing peppers and do all that crap. But you don't have to. You can go to a Reddit like Space Buckets is a really popular one. It's literally all about getting really cheap, like guerrilla weed grows done efficiently, and they just grow it in buckets. So like there are always ways, and Dig, I'm sure you can speak to that more than I can.
Yeah. There's a big culture. I mean, look, if you can keep it hidden outdoors and you have a way to keep it small, either growing in autoflowers or if you have a really tall fence or you're in a really rural area, your mileage may vary. Or if you're in a state where it's legal to grow, like in Oklahoma, you can grow weed in your backyard legally. If you own your property, as far as I know, you can have 6 under the medical program, right?
Something like that, like 6 in veg and 6 in flower, I believe.
Yeah, you can grow them big and proud. As long as they're behind the fence, I think you're golden. So here it's like that. If they're behind the fence and no one can see them, grow them big and tall. And some people don't even do that. Some people, they're poking over the fence for like 2 months. But yeah, if you can grow outside, you don't have to pay for electricity. You just have to pay for water. Everything else, like the sun is free.
Right.
You know, you've got to feed them and stuff, like give them like different kinds of fertilizer depending on how big they get. You may have to trellis them if they get really big, if you want them to support all those buds you're growing. But as far as like paying for the light to be running, no, the sun is the greatest light in the world. And if your pest control is on point and everything, You can grow outdoor weed that most people won't be able to tell isn't indoor weed. People have this illusion in their mind that indoor weed is better than outdoor weed, and they just haven't had the good outdoor stuff.
Oh, I've definitely had some good outdoor. It's just, I think the floor is possibly lower not possibly, the floor is lower for outdoor, so it gets that bad rep, but there's also, shitty indoor and everything in between.
Some of the worst weed I've ever had in my life, I'm almost positive was indoor.
Oh, that's rough.
I paid, oh God, I don't mean to go on a tangent. Talking about, this is some stuff you shouldn't do. Listen, folks, do not buy weed from people who weed is not their drug of choice, i.e. do not buy weed from a meth head. No offense to meth heads out there.
Yeah, but we wouldn't want to offend that segment of our audience.
Listen, I don't want to offend anyone and their drug of choice or anything. This is all I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if you want to buy shrooms, buy them from a hippie.
Right.
If you want to buy weed, buy them from someone who smokes weed. Don't buy alcohol from unlicensed people. It's dangerous.
And of course, if you want to buy like frozen blood of children, you buy it from the Clinton Foundation. QAnon joke. Sorry, I just totally there.
Oh boy, are we gonna be Joe Rogan now? Is that what we're doing?
The tradition of me dropping nukes on the flow of the show continues.
Call Ben Shapiro. Let's get him on for an interview. He can tell us about drug policy.
Oh man. Okay. Now here's where we got to get into the don't get me started, because that dude will get me started. So let's go back to weed. And here's some of that content that this is just something that you never would have learned unless it's through experience. So now you all are getting to learn my experience. And this is one that you can't take advantage of immediately, but you can definitely really get good returns from it over time. That is, if you're in a state where it's legal and people are open about their use, get active in the fucking Facebook groups, get active in your state's Reddit and make friends. Because in a very real sense, if you remember back in the day, like your grandparents or parents fucking going to the neighbors and giving them a big sack of fucking tomatoes because they grew a bunch of them or whatever, that is happening in your world with marijuana right now. And you just don't know people.
All of the weed. So, dude, let me tell you, like, I'm not going to say any names, but I have a lot of my friends that also grow weed. And like a lot of times this thing happens where there are no guarantees in farming. Shit'll happen. Bugs will come in. And if you're in this little, it's kind of like a polycule, someone's always available if everyone's fucking everybody. Someone's always got weed if everyone's giving everyone weed. And if everyone is lifting everyone up and teaching everyone to grow better weed, then the better the free weed you sometimes have to ask people for gets. Like, people are always asking me why, because I give people like my extra cuts. I just give them away. Like people are like, why do you give away weed? I'm like, I'm giving away plants. Why do you give away plants? Why don't you try to sell them? I'm like, because they're going to remember that I gave them this cut. And then maybe one day I run out of good indicas because I got sick and had to have surgery and couldn't go ape shit in the garden like I usually do.
Right.
And then my buddies came through for me. And like he said, if you start growing and then all of a sudden you like drop like an ounce or an eighth or a half ounce or whatever on somebody when they are hurting, well, if they get really good at growing, they might not drop an ounce on you. They may drop 5 on you. You don't know what that pay it forward looks like. And that's not always going to happen. There are a lot of folks in this world that just never quite get it together. Like, you're burning ounces when you give them away. Don't expect those to come back. But when they do, oh boy, it slaps. I'll tell you what, good weed.
Now, something here that's a good call. I wish that I had enough perspective to speak more on homegrown, except to say I've had it and it's good. But man, it does seem like that I don't know. I don't want to get back on the indoor thing. I'm like sweating because the edibles are all kicking in and I'm getting extremely high. This is the point of the show where we become a train wreck where we don't know what's happening.
I know what's happening.
What's that?
You're getting high on edibles and derailing the show and then making excuses for it. Don't make excuses for it. Just grab onto the pony's mane and hold on tight, because this mare ain't stopping. Your drunk uncle just slapped her on the ass and you don't know why you're on the back of this horse, but you don't want to fall off. Let's do this.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
I think that's a really good segue to the next tip, which is if if your life circumstances allow it, maybe take a tolerance break. Maybe stop with the cannabis just for a minute. I don't know.
Yeah, that's an approach that I understand that some people have taken. I will say, yes, I will say that tolerance breaks are not all created equal, but I will say that if you're a heavy cannabis user, you don't need to quit smoking weed for a week. If you quit smoking weed for a couple days and come back to it, whoo! Oh boy, let me tell you, you'll feel it. Now you can rapidly return to your previous tolerance.
Yes.
But if you just want to experience like, oh, I wish I could get more high like I used to, take 3 days off and then smoke a joint and call me in the morning.
You know, to that end, even I've noticed on days where I'm really busy, like, and I don't get to take an edible till the end of the day, I'm proud of that's the anticipation and shit. And like, but that edible always hits real good. So I think it's exactly what you said. It's less about like maybe how much tolerance you get back and more about like the amount at which it scales at size. Because if you're out like a month, I would say you're probably at like 50%, I would guess ballpark. And if you're, 2.5 to 3 months, you're basically a baby again. So you're really saving money on cannabis because you're not buying it during that time. And then whenever you come back, you can like take a hit off a vape pen and fucking crawl under the couch.
Yeah, I generally don't take tolerance breaks longer than 3 days. And usually it's because I can't smoke cannabis. It's not like I have to go to Texas for a family thing or whatever. And I can't or I'll have like, so I may be able to get a hold of like a little bit, but it's nothing like here. So like, it's whatever. But like, so when I I'm not running around with like tubs of like I'm not running around with tins of joints in my pocket like I am here in Texas. You know what I mean? It's just not something I do. So I'll go on tolerance breaks like that. But like after about a day and a half, like all the residual effects of cannabis start to wear off for me. And that's when my joints and my back and like all my pain things really start to come back full force. And so like past a day and a half, I'm usually like, fuck this, cannabis is medicine. Ow. Yeah. I'm having trouble. Like I break down and get like old Manny and like have trouble getting like really quick. Cannabis is like my Popeye spinach.
Right.
And without it, I am a weak bitch. Let me tell you.
Yeah, it's kind of fucked up to think, to get back on that little activism move to like, it's more acceptable to the insurance companies and shit for you to be popping a fucking oxy or whatever and dealing with that train than doing this thing that keeps you functional. And I don't know, it's irritating. And that's why I guess I am one of those weed guys, because it just isn't fair.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And we've talked about this offline, but I'm not one of those people that opiates like super agree with.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know
that too.
Yeah. Like, I know everyone's like opiates don't agree with everyone. I'm like, listen, there are some people that are very high functioning that are basically opiate addicts.
Right.
I am not one of those people that would be high functioning. It makes me like feel like physically ill after a couple days and sad and gross. The only time I take them is after surgery. Anything else, I generally won't. I'm not generally tough enough to do like the first week after like post-surgical where they cut me open without opiates. I don't feel like being that tough.
I'm not looking forward to my surgery because I'll have to do that due to my background.
Dude, so honestly, what helps with coming out, like after you've been on opiates a week and your body's hooked on them again,
right?
Dude, the best thing you could do is take a day where all you're doing is smoking joints and just kind of sweating it out. I know that sounds not good, but like honestly, guys, one of the best things cannabis can do for you as far as from like coming down off of other drugs is just smoke a little weed. Like every time you start fiending, like have a little more weed and it'll kind of even everything out. And it makes like the nausea that you get when you come off of opiates and the appetite loss a little bit more manageable. Like I didn't even like lose a shitload of weight.
Man, I would, and I would not stop. So, well, that advice might work for somebody who doesn't have that history. That would only serve to kick off months of hell in my mind and do things to me mentally that would be indescribable on this quaint little podcast. Okay, so if you are a recovered addict like yours truly, I would not recommend going that route, because kind of like the alcoholic using mouthwash, you never know what road you're going to end up going down. So, YMMV. Now, I did just read something interesting. I'm taskmaster in this thing, but I found something. I found a really good tip. Check this shit out, Dig. This is on greenstate.com. And it says if you want to get good deals at dispos, you go to places where there's a high density of dispensaries in the area.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, there are a couple towns in Oregon where there might be more dispensaries than coffee shops. It's pretty surreal. In Medford, a town near here, there's actually yeah, you've heard of it.
You told me that,
yeah. Oh yeah. They have one called Weed Bucks, and every time I see it, I laugh. It makes me laugh. There's a free ad for you.
We have Starbuds.
Oh, that's awesome. See, that's cool. Yeah.
They're a little overpriced and shit, but they're okay. They're okay.
I don't go to Weed Bucks much anymore. I used to go there a lot, and then I had an acquaintance who was a bud tender there, and without getting too much into it, like they told me some stuff about some of their like pre-rolls. I was like, all right. So I moved on.
Oh yeah, those pre-rolls are kind of like they're on the weed equivalent of like seeing like the meat factory and seeing where your hamburger's made. You fucking those big shaking apparatuses and like,
oh yeah, bro. I'm at home. Like I could take some like indoor right now and grind it up and roll it into a big fat joint, stick it in a tube, let it pickle for like a day so it smells just like the paper doesn't even like taste like paper anymore. I had the weed like resin like resonated and like I call it pickled. Put the joint in the tube and let it pickle is what my partner will say.
Right.
And so we'll do that and we'll smoke it a little bit later. It'll taste even better because all the terps have soaked into the paper. So for you home rollers out there, don't roll it. I mean, obviously roll a joint and smoke it. I'm not stopping you, but roll two. Smoke one now and smoke one like in 4 hours.
Pickle that bitch.
Oh, it's good stuff. Yeah, pickle it. That's what I like to call it. But yeah. So like, what? I forgot what we were talking about. I got absorbed in my. Oh yeah, and there's just like some guy with like a cigarette like hanging out of his mouth, and he's just like, meh, meh, meh. Oh, give me some more weed. Meh. And it's like it's not romantic like a joint. You don't take the paper out of the sheet and place the paper in between your fingers so it supports itself, and then dump the weed and then the crutch and then you roll it and then you lick it. Oh, it's so sensual. Such an experience. I love joints.
Do you save your roaches or do you?
No, I roll with crutches, man. So like when I burn it down to the crutch. So like right before it gets to the crutch, like basically with the crutch, you'll feel.
Is like that a filter or am I confused?
No. So like a filter would be like, like a filter, like a crutch is a piece of paper that you like. So I use perforated crutches. I'm not going to show you the brand. I think you probably saw, but like with these, you just
that War brand.
Yeah. War brand papers. So you just kind of roll it and then it goes in the joint and then it forms you like just a little tube. So like,
that's what I call a filter. I'm an idiot.
Oh, well, it's not a filter. It just keeps the weed out of your lips.
Right.
It's like a little tube. And then, so that's what's going in that wrapped in paper is what's going in my tray. And then there's nothing really left to smoke. I don't like re-rolling little joints and roaches and stuff. I think that's grody. It's like re-rolling a cigarette. It's fucking disgusting. I'll do it if I'm like in a place, but like if I was in a state where it was illegal, I don't think I would smoke joints inside my house or like around my house. I think I would use a bong at home.
Right.
And then I would use like joints on the road. Like I would take a joint to a concert because then if you want to get rid of it, you can just get rid of it. Whose was that? I don't know.
Yeah, no paraphernalia.
Oh, there's a joint. Oh my god.
Oh my.
Well, but like, oh, it's on the ground over there. What the fuck? As you exhale like pot smoke, whatever. Like, but like at home, you want to conserve weed, so you want to have a bong stashed away somewhere. And you just like get it in there, like what I'm saying. So like I think, and that's so it just depends on like what. Like, cause like I can grow a big 1 pound plant outside allegedly, and then I can roll joints. So like, and smoke a gram at a time like a fucking asshole. But if I'm not in a legal state and I'm not growing these big, beautiful West Coast bushes, then I can't do that. So like I gotta like use a bong or some shit and take like what like 0.20 like gram bong rips to the face like on the 15 until I feel like where I'm at. I need
Fair.
to be. I don't know. What are we talking about? Fucking
You've lost your train of thought. That's
just
right.
talking about bong rips, bro.
Yeah. I was following, and I, in general, like rolling joints and shit is not nearly as economical if we're talking about the weed saving thing.
No, that's
No.
not a way to save money. That's just a stupid way that I like to do it.
Now go ahead, sorry.
Oh no, go ahead. Yeah.
To the other end of that, like getting more out of your high and saving money are kind of the same thing. And I see a lot of guides and shit that say like use glass blunts and one hitters, but I don't like those because it's a lot of work. And like I'm high tolerance, so I got to like pack it out of the dugout like 27 times to get my buzz. But I will say learning how to snap bongs has been great for conserving weed. It's super efficient. And if you get, I'll just break my process down, Dig, and then you can tell yours and maybe we can figure out who's good at it here. Okay. Whenever I'm doing snappers, what I like to do is I will take the bud, I will break it up with my fingernails instead of the grinder typically because my grinder is a little too fine. I will not stack, but kind of gently place those individual pieces that I thumbnail up into the bowl, making like a light stack that a lot of air gets between.
Okay. Yeah.
I will light the bowl, making sure to get like as much coverage, get the whole thing up at once as I can. Yep. And then whenever the time comes and the bowl's all full or the chamber's all full of smoke, I yank it and I snap it in and then I exhale. Does that sound about like a snap?
So colloquially, no, that's just a bong rip.
Ooh.
So when no offense. No,
you're good, man.
So what I would call a snap, and it doesn't have to be a full bowl, but a snap in a bong is where you hit it until that noise when it comes, it's the sound of the last ember of the weed snapping through and hitting the bong water.
And I forgot that element, but yeah, you're absolutely right.
So like, even if it's only like a little pinch that you're snapping through, like you might call that like a baby snapper and you're just like, and you may not even fill the whole chamber, or you're snapping through like big monster rips and you've got like, 0.25 to like half gram bong bowls. You're like ripping through a bong. But at that point, you're not clearing when you're filling the chamber. You're just like, wrenching on it until it's done.
Right. And I did forget that's like the snapping aspect is just like you said, like kind of whole clearing the bowl.
Yeah. And you have to clear the bowl into the bong water for it to be a snap.
And the logic behind that kind of makes sense because at least with me, there comes a point if you're hitting the bowl multiple times, it's kind of hard to tell if that's ash or that's weed or that's just a little chunk of carbon, where the snap leaves very little uncertainty. Yeah. And also you're smoking a shitload of weed at once and getting high. Please continue.
Yeah. Now what I will say about snapping is it's actually not as it's a great way to get high really, really quick. And it's my favorite way to do bong bowls, but it's not the most efficient for your flower.
Oh,
in my opinion. I think the way that my partner does it is the best way. She'll pack like a level bowl or even like a mounded bowl, and she'll just smoke on it. And in her bong, she'll just do she'll fill the chamber, empty it like you said, until the bowl's gone. And she's got her whole rig figured out where when she's done, she has like a little bowl that has like a little handle, and she takes it and she goes, and she blows out the other end, and just ash blows out. She's figured out where she's got it just right. So you can get like with your piece where exactly like when you're done, but it takes maybe a neurotic level of dedication.
And I'm not paying that close of attention. The more high I get, I'm like accidentally blowing like half smoked bowls out and shit. So yeah, it's a dangerous proposition. I would venture to say that probably vaping or again the dugouts and shit that they recommend are the most straight up economical way to do it. But it becomes a point of like, I don't know, like what you called the clean, like pure weed high. That seems to me like a level of weed high that you just lose once you start getting a tolerance, to where I think I could probably hit a vape pen and it would just cough and make me feel pissed off, and that would be it. But maybe I'm also not good vape pens. But yeah.
I like whole flower vapes. Like I've got a Volcano. I've got these things from Claudius 9.
Respect on the Volcano.
Oh, it was a big purchase. I'll never buy one again because this thing will last me forever. It weighs like so much. I don't mention it much on the podcast because I bought that. They don't need to send podcasters shit.
I need one.
They've been around for a long time. Oh yeah. Well, they need to send Evan one.
Yeah,
he doesn't have. Well, I'm not even going to talk about how much money I spent in this fucking thing. Let's just say that if you have that much money and you want a volcano and you don't have like children you need to feed,
Right.
go buy one. But maybe, I don't know. Like, I feel like if I had children, maybe I wouldn't have a volcano. Does that make sense?
No, I get it. Yeah, that's like the big fancy weed purchase. Like back before I had kids, I had a very nice like boutique bass guitar, and now same thing. No, I get you.
Yeah. Like I would maybe buy the kids vegetables or something. I don't know.
Now, do you feel the volcano gives you the level of value that the amount you spent on it? Like, are you getting a good buzz off the old volcano?
Yeah, actually, as far as like vaporizers, as far as dry herb vaporizers, I still think it's the top of the line as far as like overall, like just experience and the high you get. You can change the temperature to where you want it. You can get it almost combustible. And I can get where I like to be with it more than any of these other vaporizers. Now, I will say this. These handhelds that Cloudy has sent, they're way nicer than stuff I tried 5 years ago.
Right.
And like, I was tripping over my words earlier. Like, I got high. I'm high. Like in a way that like maybe even a dab pen wouldn't get me high. So dryer vaporizers are coming a long way. I will say that like if you like getting like very, very inebriated, or you need a high level of medication, it can take longer to get there with them sometimes, but you can get there with like grams on the pound, if you know what I'm saying, like really little smaller amounts of weed.
Do you use
part of why the volcano is so good is you're packing like I think the bowl and it almost holds like 0.40 grams or something.
Jeez Christ.
Like it holds like almost half a gram or something. So
do you do the whip or the bag?
I use the bag, man.
Good shit.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. I couldn't hit that on a podcast. You'd hear it going like,
the German engineering came to work.
And then I'd be over here and you'd be like, and then you'd hear it crinkle. It would just be awful. No one would enjoy it.
That would be like an NPR segment more than where they have to get the audio texture. Yeah, no, we're good on that. I'm gonna pull the last 10 or so minutes of the podcast. Let's bullshit aside with a little funny aside. If listeners of This American Life are with us, I once listened to an episode where they went to a balloon making fair, and it was like the douchiest. Like, of course they're gonna get the person, and like. So yeah, I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm stoned, but fuck that. And it was really
welcome to All Things Considered. We're going to be talking today about the Senate and how it might not actually represent the will of the people. But first,
something like that. We've done pretty surprisingly well for we've not gotten into private prisons. We only briefly went into sex trafficking. That's pretty good.
Yeah. So for the record, not a Q guy over here.
Yeah,
neither are you. Yeah, no, we were just making jokes. We like making jokes about the Trumpuses.
Yeah, and in fact, oh good.
I think that whole movement, it's while it's frightening as it is, it's also that ridiculous.
Right.
And so that's something.
I would say, and since we're at the end of the show when nobody really listens anyway, I don't have enough time to get my whole thoughts on that. And it's a weed podcast anyway. Most conspiracy theories, I have some level of like, I don't like them. I don't subscribe, but whatever it's escapism, or you want to be a contrarian, or like you think you're going to impress people by saying, oh no, did you know the Vatican's actually an ancient electric fucking generator? Like say it, that's fine. But the Q shit, if you're into it, fuck you. If you're into the Q shit, stop listening to my show. Get off the air. Go check into some deprogramming shit. And then
adrenochrome isn't real, you retards.
Yes, exactly.
Like seriously, it's not real. That's not how any drug is made at all. You retard. You're falling for like B horror musical shit. Go watch goddamn fucking Repo, a genetic opera, if you want that level of entertainment. Don't come calling to me. And Repo is very good, but it's not good enough to base a conspiracy on. Here's something else I'd like to say about all of that stuff. Like these people that want to control other people's behavior and what they do inside, outside the bedroom, they're not good for weed, man.
No. And I would, it's It's just because weed's good, I guess. Yeah, I mean, it's certainly they're not helping. It just seems like at this point, as long as it's not like the furry fucking NAMBLA Pato coalition going through and fucking saying, "Hey, we're making weed our exclusive platform," like it's just
Hey, I've got no problem with furries. If you want to put on a fur, oh, okay.
Yeah,
like I like all those weird people, man. Like I like if you're doing something that's a little bit different and it's like visually striking and annoys conservative Christians, like I want to hear what you have to say. I'm not saying I'm going to agree with it, but it's annoying the people I hate, and you're wearing a funny frill and you're dressed up like a fox, and that's interesting. I'm interested.
It's interesting and it's funny. I would note, if you're playing a video game that has a public art element like many Nintendo games do, and Dig, I know you're not a game player. Maybe that's not the best time to draw a picture of your like purple furred wolf avatar with cum all over its face. I had to stop my son from playing Splatoon 2. So
Jesus Christ,
that because they were bombarding the public art area with just very, very, of course, because there are so many good artists in that scene. You got to tip their cap. Like, it produces amazing artists, but there's just so much art of just horrible shit. And Nintendo, whatever, they can't deal with it. So
what is it called? YIF? Is that what it's called?
I believe that's the
cartoon, like the cartoon, like animal porn. This is an explicit podcast, right?
Of course.
Okay. So like, I think that's what it's called. So I was friends with like a very homosexual person. Like I still am friends with very homosexual people.
Hey, how's it going?
But like what this very particular, very homosexual person in high school was really into that stuff. So like I would be in his room in high school and we would be like drinking like probably like Keystone Light, and I would like flip over and there'd just be like a computer printout of like a gay like wolf like fucking a gay dragon in the ass or some shit. And I'd be like, bro, what is this? And he's like, oh, that's YIF. That's furry porn. I'm like, sure is. All right, moving on.
Now, and it sounds like that your exposure to that scene is maybe a little closer than mine, which, you know, A, immediately makes you suspect, but B, it makes me wonder. I was under the impression that YIF was like kind of like their fuck. It was like their catch-all, like verb.
Oh, see, I didn't know. That's just what he told me.
But I'm wondering now if maybe I've been wrong that whole time.
I don't know. I'm not like a furry. I have this way of winding up, like, especially when I was younger in my 20s, I just didn't have no in my heart. I was like Joe Dirt. Right. So I just end up in these cool situations where there'd be like weird porn or like excessive nudity or like drugs that I wasn't necessarily like ready for. Like I'm never ready to see someone smoke off aluminum foil. And I've been on more than one date as a young man where like I thought I was getting ready to get laid, and then some girl was smoking pills off aluminum foil. This was a long time ago. But like it's just
tattoo.
I just feel like I'm open-minded as long as you're like not hurting anyone else and you're not like doing anything like violent or fucked up.
Right.
I don't care what you do. And honestly, like, okay, cool. Like, I don't care. Like, I don't care.
That's how I am with it too. Like, it's amusing to me. It's funny. That's
I enjoy the hell out of some of it. Like I love Dorian Electra. She's this, what do you call it? She's non-binary, and she's like an electronic music artist. They call it hyperpop. I love that shit. She's got this funny thing where she's like embraced the whole like Alex Jones like ranting like the water making the frogs gay. And she has a whole music video where it's her and a bunch of furries like turning everyone gay, and she calls it the water campaign. It's hilarious. Or sorry, not her, they have this cool campaign, and they wear like a weird like Stalinist like weird fascist vibe.
Yeah,
but it's all like neon and like rainbow and like gay. It's great. I love it. It's hilarious.
I've seen that subculture before that gets into the whole like authoritarian dress with or without the rainbow shit. That's people end up in some weird places, man. People
I
end up in
know.
some weird and like not
I
even any
know.
judgment. Like I want to know how you got there. Like just out of curiosity, I want to know what pivotal points in your life directed you to get there.
But how I